What's good, y'all? After surviving a catastrophic hurricane and still dealing with power outages, we are back. The fall season of our anime is underway, meaning it's time again to go down my watch list. There's plenty of sequels, so as always, let's start with those. Moving on to one of the most disappointing season 2s I've ever seen to exist, we have Blue Lock vs. U20, and calling it bad would be an understatement. I was one of those people who defended the animation in season 1. It wasn't the best, but it was serviceable, and I held hope that season 2 would get the love it deserves. But I don't even know how we got here. You take a very popular manga that has even more potential to grow and reduce it to a PowerPoint presentation. I mean, at this point, I would say don't waste your time and just read the manga, but if you really need voice acting that much, then you do you, I guess. Then we have Don Machi Season 5 going on. Gonna be honest, a couple of seasons ago, I kinda lost faith in the series, but the previous season was exactly what I needed to get me invested again. The horrors of the dungeon were on full display, which is one of the reasons I fell in love with this show in the first place, and this season feels like it's focusing on another one of my favorite aspects, the gods being messy. And with Freya being the main one, you know there's gonna be some underhanded stuff going on. But being 5 seasons in, I think you should know exactly what to expect. It's pretty much a good fantasy, so I ain't mad at it for keeping up with it. And to round out our sequels, we have ReZero Season 3, or as I like to call it, your seasonal Subaru torture porn, cause Jesus, that man goes through a lot. And from the looks of it, that ain't stopping anytime soon. Aside from Mushoku Tensei, ReZero is seriously a contender for the best isekai. The characters are interesting, and watching Subaru's growth as the seasons go on makes him a great MC. I know some people called him cringe, but he's always steps up when he needs to. From the looks of it, we're dealing with a lot more of the Witches Cult members, as well as more of the Royal Succession plotline. Those parts of the world building are very interesting, so I'm easily invested. And obviously, White Fox has us in for another treat that'll be peak like always. Alright, let's move on to some new. Joining the list of openings you never skip again, we got Dandadan. It goes without saying that this is probably the anime to look out for this season, and for good reason. As a new watcher, I had no idea what to expect, but this show takes no time in ramping up the plot from the get-go. Plus, it does a great job of seamlessly adding character backstory or motivations alongside all of the flashy, in-your-face quirkiness. It seems like every alien or ghost is obsessed with that boy's banana. Not to mention that fine-ass grandma. I have no idea where the plot is going, but I am 100% in. Either way, the comedy is on point, the story is good, it's basically a must-watch, easily. This next one has also been greatly anticipated. Before it even aired, I've heard Blue Box to be called a masterclass in romance anime. Some of y'all probably know, I love my rom-coms, so that gave me a lot of expectations going in. And I gotta say, so far it's living up to it. Right now, the story's moving along at a decent pace to build up their connection. You don't have to wait for a lot of the build-up to pay off in a couple of episodes like usual. It's avoiding falling into some of those basic traps you see usually with these kinds of shows, which makes it very engaging to watch. And once again, I want to call out how beautiful this animation is. It's easy to say, oh, pretty colors might be enough, but they're really good at portraying facial expressions too, and that's great for a romance since subtext is very important. Next, I want to talk about Yakuza Fiance for a little bit, cause they are wildin'. Basically, 2 children of different Yakuza families are put into an arranged marriage. On the surface, the girl seems pretty normal, and the guy basically speaks like a Reddit mod. But that doesn't matter, cause they are matching each other's freak. There's been plenty of anime where bad relationships are put on display, and those always feel like you're watching a train wreck. But this is one of the few I've seen where toxicity might lead to romance and win in the end. Like, at this point, I seriously can't tell if they're a good match or if they need to stay away from each other. For some reason, it reminds me of Romantic Killer, if you've seen that one. Maybe it's because both the lead heroines have red hair, or they just don't give into the situation they're in. Either way, it's strange enough to at least give it a try. Then we have one of my personal favorites this season and the Ranma 1/2 remake. I've been a huge fan of the original for so long. it's definitely my favorite Oto anime and one of my favorite dubs ever. So the new one had a lot to live up to for me. Similar to Urusei Yatsura, it does a good job of bringing the show to a modern time while still keeping that old feel, classic hands-ons and all. There's a lot of talk around the remake and if some aspects are going to be kept the same or toned down, and yeah, the nudity is less prevalent, but the main point is to show that Ranma doesn't care about his femininity in the slightest, which still comes across. Personally, I can't get over my love for the original to fully enjoy this. Like, I still hear their old dub voices when I'm watching this, but for someone who's never seen the series or isn't as attached as I am, it's definitely worth it. Lastly, we have what seems to be like the sleeper hit of this season about the movement of the Oath. One of my favorite things about anime is that there can be a series about literally anything and it can be worth watching. This series is a perfect example of that because I swear I never would have watched an anime on the spread of heliocentrism, but it works. Setting it in a time where the church had overarching power and would harm people for different ideas adds a layer of depth to the journey these characters are willing to go through. Watching people put their life on the line in search of the truth hasn't been this compelling in a minute. The spread of human curiosity, wanting to find some kind of meaning to life's questions, understanding a beautiful world, these concepts are all on display early on in this series, and I can't wait to see where it goes. Plus, the studio in charge of it is Madhouse, so if nothing before this convinces you to give it a try, let that be the deciding factor for you. And that's pretty much all that stood out to me this season so far. The amount of sequels that are airing is actually insane, so that kind of eliminates a lot from my watch list. I know the big one I left out so far is Dragon Ball Daima, but I just haven't decided if I'm gonna watch it yet. I've watched literally everything else Dragon Ball, so I probably will in the future, just maybe not now. Anyway, that's gonna be it for me. If you're watching some of the same stuff, let me know what you think of them, or if you're watching any of the shows that I missed, leave them down in the comments and a good little summary of why I should watch it anyway. But that's gonna be it, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.